Hi everyone, in this video we will study methods in Java. Now if you notice, I'm once again using JDoodle to compile my Java code. So here we have the main class. Okay, so the class itself is called main, and within the main class we have the main method here. Now main is the body of the code. That's where the main portion of the code is written. Now you cannot write your entire program in main because then the program would become very huge. To do that, what people often do is write methods. So these are methods additional to the main method, and you write methods to do a particular task. Okay, so for example, here I have defined a method called myMethod. Now the myMethod here is very simple. What the myMethod does is it actually prints. That's all that it does. It's a very simple method where we actually just print stuff. Okay, so how do we actually call that method? We just call it as myMethod. That's the name of this method, and this method has nothing in its arguments. So if you look at the main method, it has string args as its argument. The main myMethod here does not have any arguments. You could also write other methods where you have arguments, and then if you call this method, it'll actually just printing from inside my method. Okay, so it returns nothing, hence it is void as well. Okay, so this is one method. Okay, I'm just going to write another method here. To do that, let's just copy this method. Okay, and we will do this as add method. Okay, this method, in this method, what we will do is we will add to integers. Okay, so int a comma int b. These are two methods that we have. And what it would do is, instead of void, this method will also return an integer, which is the result of adding a and b. Okay, so I'm going to define a new integer c here, and I'm going to say c is a plus b. Then I'm going to return c here. Okay, so this particular method returns c. That's what it does. Okay, now to call this method, so call add method. How do we call the add method? Okay, so I'm going to define two integers, a and b. Okay, and I'm just going to define a equals 5, b equals 10. Now at this moment, a lot of you might think that, okay, these two integers here are called a and b. That is why in the add method we have a and b here. That is not important. Okay, so let's now change this. I'm going to call this 1 and the next one 2. Okay, and we will see that the method add method will still work. Okay, so these are two integers that I've defined in the main method. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I am actually going to define another integer called 3. 3 will actually store the result. So to add a 1 and 2, what I'm going to do is I am going to pass a and b as arguments. So here, or sorry, not a and b, but 1 and 2. So 1 and 2 are arguments of the add method, and then what you do is the result that is returned at c is actually stored in 3. Okay, now what we would do is I'm going to just write system.out.println, and then I'll do output equal to plus 3. Okay, and this was basically when the first method would call, so I'll just remove this and paste it here. Okay, so that indentation is correct. I'm just going to move it back here. Okay, so this is the second method. Okay, and let's just see what happens when we execute both these methods. Okay, so we have the main method within which we've actually called two methods. my method and add method. My method does not take in any arguments and it does not return anything. The other method, add method, actually takes two integers as arguments and returns the result of those two integers, the addition of the result. So let's go ahead and execute this. So now if we execute this, you will see that it first enters into my method. So it says printing from inside my method. That's what it prints from inside here. Okay. And then method was executed successfully, which was essentially this print statement. And then in add method, we actually go in here, add 1 and 2, and that's the output. So add 5 and 10, and basically the output is 15. Okay. So this is how you actually declare methods in Java. There are more ways of methods and classes together. In this introductory course, we are not going to look at those. In this introductory course, we are just going to look at methods and how we can write it and how methods are useful in doing things like doing repeated actions. So if you have to call, say, add two numbers again, you can just call the add method with other two arguments. So methods are very useful for doing repeated tasks so that you don't have to write the entire code over and over again in main. And it also is very useful for debugging and making sure that there are no errors in code, because you can test a method, make sure that that method is correct, and then move on to another method. Okay. So with this, I'll conclude this video. Thank you for watching.